I saw someone on Facebook recently say she's having second thoughts about moving to Portugal because of something she read online. She posted a question on an expat group and asked the question, is it still safe to move to Portugal given all what's happening with immigration? She got hundreds of responses, some of them very angry, claiming immigrants were causing an increase in crime, causing housing prices to go up, ruining the culture. I've been in Portugal almost 5 years now, and when I see stuff like that, I do what I used to doing as a former journalist. I check it. And what I found is most of those claims are bogus. They're wildly exaggerated or just inaccurate or just wrong. On this video, I'm going to give you 5 real facts about immigration in Portugal. Data, not politics. And some of them are going to surprise you, especially number 5, which nobody seems to be talking about, but could change the whole debate about immigration. If you're into facts over fear, hit the like button and let's go. Let's start with the basics. How many people are immigrating to Portugal and who are they? Here's the scale. In 2017, there were about 421,000 foreign residents in Portugal. According to the latest AIMA data, that number has grown to approximately 1.6 million people, roughly 14% of the total population, up from just 4% 7 years ago. That's a huge jump in a very short amount of time. There's no getting around it. But the real story is, who are these people? Where are they coming from? The single largest group? Brazilians, more than 500,000, roughly a third of all foreign residents. They speak Portuguese. They share centuries of history, culture, and family ties with this country. For example, my wife Vera, she was born in Brazil. She's been living in Portugal for more than 40 years. She speaks Portuguese as her first language. She knows the traditions, the history, the differences in the Portuguese accent. When people talk about the immigration problem, a lot of the time, without realizing it, they're talking about people like Vera. After Brazilians, you have Indians, Angolans, Ukrainians, Cape Verdeans, Bangladeshis, then Italians, French, Chinese. And for all the talk about Americans moving here, like me, they make up just 1% of the immigrant population. The overwhelming majority come from places with deep historical and linguistic ties to Portugal. Now, I want to take a moment on one specific claim because it's the one that I find most dishonest, not just wrong, dishonest. I've seen people post online about the Muslim invasion. Let me give you one number. That's the percentage of Portugal's population that's Muslim. Not 10%, not 20%, not even 1%. 0.42% of the total population, about 65,000 people. And the majority of them come from Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, and Bangladesh, not from the Middle East. And even if the real number is somewhat higher than what the census captured, it's still well under 1%. There's simply no statistical basis for the Muslim invasion narrative. And honestly, there's an irony here that's hard to ignore. The Moors occupied the Iberian Peninsula for nearly 800 years. The language, the architecture, the food, the very name Algarve, it's Arabic, like a lot of Portuguese words. Those blue azulejo tiles you see throughout Portugal, that stems directly from Islamic ceramic traditions. Portugal isn't diminished by that history, it's shaped by it. Now, how about the refugee wave? Another phrase that gets a workout on social media. Portugal received approximately 2,680 asylum applications in 2024. The 3 biggest source countries, not Syria, not Afghanistan, Senegal, Gambia, and Colombia. And of all those applications, 2,680 of them, how many people were granted full refugee status? 5. 5 people. Total international protection of any kind, including lesser forms of protection, 10. So in a country with around 1.6 million foreign residents, asylum seekers are a very small part of the overall migration picture. The refugee narrative doesn't survive contact with the actual numbers. So that's fact number 1. The people immigrating to Portugal mostly come from places this country has had deep connections with for centuries. It's not a wave of strangers. When you check the actual numbers, it doesn't look anything like an invasion. Now look, I get it. I understand why some people feel otherwise. Walk through Martim Maris on a Saturday afternoon and it looks nothing like Cascais or Sintra. Some neighborhoods in Lisbon and Porto have big concentrations of immigrants. That's real, and it can feel like the country's being overwhelmed. But a few square blocks of one neighborhood is not a portrait of an entire country. Portugal has 11.4 million people across a lot of geography, 3 million in the Lisbon area alone. What you see in one city square doesn't tell you what's happening nationally. The numbers do. Fact number 2, what immigration is actually doing to crime. I walk alone here at night a lot. A lot of people do, men and women. This is a country where you can feel completely safe riding the metro late at night, where strangers come up to you and offer directions, even when you don't ask. I left my coat one time on a chair at a coffee shop, had my wallet in it. I came back 20 minutes later, still there, untouched. Coming from a big American city, it takes some getting used to. It's a new kind of feeling, but that's the way life is here, and the data supports it. A landmark study published by the EU Home Affairs Commission looked at Portuguese municipalities over a 12-year period and found that areas with higher concentrations of foreign residents saw crime rates go down, not up. A Portuguese academic analysis concluded that, quote, the idea that the increase in immigration brings more crime is a myth. Portugal is consistently ranked among the safest countries in the world. The Global Peace Index puts it in the top 5 almost every year. That hasn't changed, even as immigration has risen. The people telling you that immigrants are dangerous and bringing crime apparently haven't looked at the actual numbers. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I've seen this comment every time I've written about this online. Sure, the crime stats look great, but that's because a lot of crimes never get reported. Fair point. Underreporting is real everywhere, and it's been that way for a long time. But here's why it doesn't change the argument. The one crime that can't be underreported is murder. You can't hide a dead body for statistical purposes. Portugal's homicide rate is low, averaging around 0.7 per 100,000 people. That's less than 100 murders a year. And that number hasn't budged, even while immigration has tripled. And by the way, only about 20% of those murders were committed with firearms. If widespread crime is going unreported, if people are experiencing it, even if they aren't telling the police, you'd expect people to feel it. But a 2024 global safety survey by Gallup showed that 78% of people in Portugal feel safe walking alone at night. That's a feeling, not a police report. A 78% nighttime safety rating doesn't come from a country quietly drowning in hidden or unreported crime. But here's the number that really stopped me. A major Portuguese survey found that 67% of people believe immigrants commit more crime than the general public. 67%. That's the perception. Now here's the reality. Of everyone currently serving a prison sentence for crimes against persons in Portugal, nearly 90% are Portuguese nationals, not immigrants. So the fear is real, but fear isn't evidence, and the evidence points somewhere else entirely. That gap between what people believe and what the numbers actually show is exactly why I did this video. So if you're considering a move here, and public safety is part of your calculation, which it should be, the data's on your side. This is one of the safest places on earth. Now, a quick note. I know some of you are already typing into the comments. You're an American, what do you know? Fair question. But I live here. I shop here. This is my home. I have friends from all over the globe here. My wife is Portuguese by residency and Brazilian by birth, so this isn't theoretical for us. And anyway, you don't have to take it from me. If you want to dig into the data that I'm referring to, the key sources are all linked in the description below. Check them out yourself, and you really should. Fact number 3, who's really driving up housing costs? And let me be clear right up front. The housing pain in Portugal is very real. I don't deny it. Young people are being priced out of their own cities. Rents have surged. Affordability has gotten significantly worse. This is all true. And while it's easy and convenient for some politicians to point the finger and blame immigrants, like me, it's a lot more complicated than that. 3 forces are doing most of the heavy lifting, and none of them have anything to do with the Nepali kitchen worker or the Uber driver from Bangladesh. First, short-term rentals. Over the past decade, thousands of apartments around Lisbon and Porto have been pulled off the long-term rental market and converted into Airbnbs. I'm walking along a street in Alfama, and every few feet you see these acrylic signs on the doorway saying AL, which translates local accommodation. That's Airbnb. Those are apartments that are no longer available on the long-term rental market. Second, years of underbuilding after the 2008 financial crisis. When demand came roaring back, there simply wasn't enough supply to meet it. And look, this isn't an immigration story. It's classic supply and demand. Not enough homes were built, demand went up, prices followed. That's not a political opinion. That's just how the markets work. But there's a third factor, and this one is a bit more complicated. The housing market itself. And I want to be careful here because this one requires a bit of precision to get right. A recent Bank of Portugal report found that foreigners accounted for 28% of all home purchases in Portugal last year. The top countries these buyers come from: Brazil, Angola, and France. Many of them long-term residents buying the home they actually live in. That's not hedge funds buying up big apartment buildings, and it's not what's squeezing local first-time buyers. But there is a segment of wealthy foreign buyers, people attracted by the Golden Visa and the old non-habitual resident tax program, who buy at a completely different price point. They're Americans, Chinese, Russian buyers paying 500,000 euros and up for property. People, frankly, who look a lot like me, and probably most of the people watching this video. And while they're not directly competing with a young Portuguese couple trying to buy a two-bedroom, because those are two completely different price brackets, they do something else. They shape what gets built. I live outside Cascais. Look around this area and count the new construction projects. What are they building? Luxury condos. Every single one of them. Not starter apartments, not affordable flats for young Portuguese families. The market is sending developers one signal: build high-end. That's where the money is. Here's the reality. Portugal needs to build roughly 70,000 new homes a year to keep pace with demand. 70,000. In 2024, it completed less than half that, about 25,000. The European Commission says Portugal needs 465,000 new homes by 2035. And the construction that is happening is pointed almost entirely at the premium market. So fact number 3, yes, the housing crisis is real, and it's caused by short-term rentals like Airbnb, a decade of severe underbuilding, and a construction market shaped by wealthy buyer demand that points developers away from affordable housing. The immigrant worker isn't doing this. He's actually out there building these condos. He just can't afford to live in one. Fact number 4, what immigration is actually doing to the Portuguese economy. Now, let me give you a number your accountant would appreciate. In 2025, foreign workers paid more than 4 billion euros into the Social Security system. They received almost 430 million back in benefits, pensions, and survivor payments. That's a net surplus of over 3.5 billion euros. And over the last 10 years, the cumulative net surplus from immigrant workers to Social Security has reached 16.3 billion euros. If you're moving here to retire, that surplus is part of what keeps Portugal's public services, infrastructure, and social safety net funded. Without their contribution, taxes would almost certainly have to be raised significantly to maintain current services. Now, I also want to name something that often gets blamed on immigrants, but isn't their fault at all. The transformation people feel in places like Lisbon and Porto, even in the Algarve, the packed streets, the overcrowded restaurants, Cascais going from what not many years ago was a quiet fishing village to a trendy beach resort packed most of the years today. That's tourism, not immigration. Last year, Portugal welcomed close to 29 million visitors in a country of 11 million people. Tourism now generates around 34 billion euros a year, roughly 12% of GDP. The immigrant who lives here permanently, works here every day, and pays taxes here every month is not the one dragging a suitcase through the streets of Lisbon at 7 in the morning. So that's fact number 4. Immigrants are net contributors to the tax base, to the labor market, and to the pension system that everyone here depends on. The big changes that have occurred to daily life that people are responding to and feeling frustrated by, that's mostly a story about tourism. And now fact number 5, the one that changes everything. Here's the twist that almost nobody is talking about. While the debate rages about there being too many immigrants in Portugal, the data is actually moving in the opposite direction. New foreign worker registrations have dropped sharply in recent months by around 40% compared to previous year. And the number of immigrants leaving Portugal has roughly doubled, from about 2,700 departures per month to around 5,000 per month. And a new report from Expresso points out something else. Last year, 162,000 foreigners abandoned the Social Security system, an average of 455 people every single day, up 66% from the year before. The biggest groups leaving in absolute numbers were Brazilians and people from Portuguese-speaking countries. And not all of them are leaving for better wages. Portugal recently changed its immigration laws. You now need to be a legal resident for 10 years instead of 5 before applying for citizenship. That made many immigrants run out of patience and give up. Business groups and economists are now raising alarms. The labor market is under real pressure as immigration slows and more foreign workers move on. So let me be direct about what's going on here. Portuguese people are still leaving the country at a remarkable rate, more than 75,000 native-born citizens every year. And most of them are young, working-age adults going to countries like Spain, Germany, and the Netherlands in search of better jobs and better pay. So you have two exits happening at once, young Portuguese citizens going out and immigrant workers moving on. And yet, Portugal's total population recently hit a record high, 11.4 million people. So how is that possible? Because immigration has driven population growth here for 5 consecutive years running. Without immigration, Portugal's population today would be around 9.6 million people, not 11.4 million. That's 1.8 million people in this country's schools, hospitals, and pension system who wouldn't be here otherwise. And it's not just adults. Portugal just recorded its highest number of births in a decade, over 87,000 newborns. 1 in 3 of those babies had a foreign-born mother. In Lisbon, it was closer to half. So immigrant families aren't just filling jobs today. They're the reason there are still enough kids to keep classrooms full, to keep neighborhoods from emptying out as Portugal's population gets older. The real problem on the horizon for Portugal is not too many immigrants, it may be too few. So there they are, 5 real facts about Portugal's immigration crisis. Who's really coming here? What's happening with crime? What's really driving up housing costs? What immigration is doing to the economy? And the real immigration story that nobody seems to want to talk about. None of this means that immigration is simple or painless. It isn't. Rapid change creates real challenges for schools, services, healthcare, for communities, for daily life. There are real tensions here, some of them ugly. A few weeks ago at the market in Cascais, a woman started yelling at Vera over a parking spot. The second she heard Vera's Brazilian accent, she yelled, "Go back to your country." Vera's lived here for more than 40 years, longer than that woman's probably lived in her own neighborhood. So yeah, the tensions are real. I'm not pretending otherwise. But here's what the surveys actually show when researchers dig in, when they talk to real people, not the online comments, but actual public opinion polls. Only 1 in 5 Portuguese say immigration is more of a problem than an opportunity. Around 3/4 say most immigrants here are integrating well. The loudest, angriest voices you see online, the people I'll probably hear from in this video's comment section, they're not the whole country. They're a noisy fraction of it. And here's the thing I keep coming back to. The Portugal I live in is way more interesting because of this. The food, the music, the different languages you hear walking down the street, that's not a threat to this country. For me, it's part of what makes Portugal special. So that's 5 real facts about immigration in Portugal. And one conclusion. Immigrants aren't invading Portugal, they're saving it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you feel welcome here? Have you had any experiences that are different? I'd like to know. And if you're thinking about moving here and still going through the process, don't listen to all the comments you see online. I made a video about the D7 process, all the way from the application to the residency, dealing with AIMA. You can get it right here. Until next time, até logo.